now we come to our third presentation. Jesse Hodgetts, the University of Newcastle, Australia. Jesse Hodgetts is a Wangaipuan Ngiyampaa and Wiradjuri man of Western New South Wales and was born and raised on Dhanggati Country on the central coast of New South Wales. Jesse is a singer and teacher and is a member of the academic team of the Wolotuka Institute of the University of Newcastle, teaching and researching Aboriginal education, language, and song. Jesse is currently completing a PhD in songs and language of Ngiyampaa, Wangaipuan, and Wiradjuri speakers. He's exploring historic cultural songs and how they can inform Aboriginal song, language, and culture revitalisation in New South Wales today. Together with him, we have Dr. Raymond Kelly, the University of Newcastle, Australia. Raymond Kelly is the deputy head of the Wolotuka Institute for Indigenous Engagement and Advancement at the University of Newcastle. As a Dhanggati and Gumbaynggirr speaker, his research is centered on the recognition and revival of indigenous languages. Through his collaborative language research with multiple indigenous communities across Australia, he has been able to make vital connections between different Aboriginal languages as part of his revitalisation work. I welcome them.
Yeah, all right. Hello, Yamagana, everyone.
Hello, glad to meet you.
So, yeah, today we just wanted to provide a perspective of when we listen to historical archived songs from our own mobs, our own peoples, and how that can inform us today going forward. So we've titled it Thikarrbila Gutti, Tracking Songs Across the Land, and that's a comparison between a song from my Ngiyampaa, my camp world, and then a song from the east coast of New South Wales. So that's still answering that question of what do my country songs sound like, but showing a comparator. Yeah.
G'day, Gurieri. Hello, everybody. My name is Ray Kelly, and I've been hooked into this with Jesse because he needed some. No, he didn't. Thanks very much for everybody. I was just making a joke. Happy to be with you today.
All right. So just a bit of perspective where the countries are, and although these maps aren't strict borders and completely accurate, it gives you a bit of an idea. So my nana, Anita Selwyn Ship, was born in Dubbo. Her mother was born in Wellington, and her father was also born in Dubbo. However, they were moved out here. A lot of my nana's father's family is from Ningin and Cobar. Yeah, so identified as Wiradjuri, Wangaipuan countries.
Yeah, and so whilst we've identified a location for each of these language groups, we know there is seepage through family generations or family genealogy into a number of the others. So Dhanggati is my father's country, but Gumbaynggirr, which is just above that, is actually my mother's connection to the country.
And a little bit about what the country looks like. Some major rivers of the songs that we're presenting today come from out this way. So the Galat, which is the Lachlan River, and another special place, Umbi, known later as Maarr, going in the northern end of Wangaipuan Ngiyampaa country.
This is the Macleay Valley, and the mountain range in the background is called Thikarrbila or Anderson's or Sugarloaf Mountain, and it's associated with a very important stepping site for men. And it's connected to the dalan, the scrub turkey.
Okay, so whilst researching archived songs, this was one that was recorded in 1969 and also later in 1972 by Wangaipon speakers John King and Ernie King. And they were reciting a song that was taught to them from an old Wiradjuri Mulbong Johnson, who was from the Galar, the Lachlan. It's a song about tracking porcupine or echidna, which in the language we call Thikarrbila. So I'll just play it first.
This is another song they made. Yeah, about this porcupine. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I remember first hearing this, and all I wanted to do was move to it and dance. You know, it's got this rhythm that sounds a lot like the songs my nana would sing to us as kids. Different songs, but same rhythm, same feeling. So talking about these songs, when I was analysing them in my PhD, I didn't want to use Western musical terms that was outside of the cultural realm of the songs that we're looking at, and preferring to use our own language and our own ways of thinking about the song. And what I was just saying then, feeling the song and its rhythms and making you want to dance, that's what I call the wagema, for example. You know, other concepts that are important is obviously the words and the phrasing, which we call Ngiya, yeah. The borbi, which can mean the belly or the beat. The wind of the song, the Maarr. The breath is really important, the way we sing. We'll sing off one breath and we'll go all the way to the end of our breath and then we'll start again. The Maarr, the body of the song, what it's made up of and when it changes and where does it go. And then the Yuwi, which can mean name or identity, and how do you represent that story and that identity of the song and the story. Yeah. And these are some of the words in the song. And although I'm not a fluent speaker, we're in the process of trying to revitalize language. There's some key words in this that we can listen to. So quite clearly Thikarrbila, they're tracking a Thikarrbila. Thikarrbila. And another key word, thurukal or thurukari even, which means tracking, or even thuru, like showing the way. And then in the next section, it starts to talk a little bit more about where the Thikarrbila went. So the first section's talking about, well, we're tracking this thing. We don't know where it went. We don't know where we're going to find him. And in the second section, it starts to talk, there's more direction. More this here, he went back that way. And then listening to some conversations on the tapes with them talking about the song, they clearly say that they reckon he's gone back to his burrow. And you got that funny foot that's backwards. So basically the song's about teaching you how to track Thikarrbila, how to track echidna. Which metaphorically, knowing the tracks of your ancestors is a really big part of our education system. Knowing where they went, what they did. Yeah. Here's the burbi, the rhythms and the this I can see, and the where the beat falls. And that really gives you that dancey rhythm. Sort of feels like you're walking. For me, when I hear that rhythm, it makes me feel like I'm walking, looking for something, like the song.
Mm.
The Maarr, just like the direction, how does it move? The wind, the breath. When does it go up? When does it go down? You know, he stays in that one note at the start. That's when he goes up, see? So exact notes, I felt isn't relevant. So knowing if it's a C or a C sharp or how does it fit into the 12-note Western 12-note system really isn't important for understanding the song, but more about how does it move, how does it feel, how does it connect to the story. And even when he's asking that question, we've been tracking this Thikarrbila all day and I don't know when we're going to find him. And in the second part, there's that resolution. I went that way. And he turned back. So he's singing that way now. We found it. We think we know where he is now. So you can feel that expression of what they're talking about in the song. And this is just structurally like the body of the song and how many times to do it. And really you could, I've heard this a couple of times and you can vary it. Sometimes you can sing the same section a number of times until you feel like you need to go on to the next section. And I think that's more to do with the dances. When you're singing and you're watching the dancers and you watch what they're doing, and then we sort of indicate to each other when to change into the next section, change the step. And it might be that they've now got to the part of the song and dance where, we think we know where that Thikarrbila is now, and I've got to sing the next part. And then the Yuwi, the name, the identity of tracking the Thikarrbila, which I've sort of talked about anyway. The intensity of the tone and expression, it symbolizes the tracker's pursuit for the Thikarrbila and the not anxiety, but not sure, no certainty. Where is it? Let's keep looking. We've been tracking this thing all day. And then Thorokal, tracking. Now this word really interesting. Thorokal, teaching youth how to track Thikarrbila. In our language, a Thorokala is a knowledgeable man or a teacher. And I think you've got a similar.
So in Dhanggati, turu is actually the track itself for us, and turu pra would mean the person who knows or the people who know tracks. So the similar connotation here about being able to get food, track animals, indicates this sense of knowledge holding. And perhaps even teaching, yes.
Knowing the way, knowing the tracks. And that's that metaphor I was talking about before, that when you know the tracks and you know what your ancestors have been, you have more knowledge. You then have a responsibility to share that to your next youth and the next generation. So now that's my song. I'll pass this on now to Ray.
Okay, and it's sort of a good segue, the notion of knowledge holders and people who teach. So the Turupra are the people who actually teach. So this little song is about a boy that's been taken from his comfort zone and now having to live with the older boys, the Bingais, and being instructed to or being moved away by the men, but certainly at the direction of a senior woman. So perhaps we could just listen to it.
Yuwani Chinese man maglalugalai. Yuwani Chinese man maglalugalai. Singing no sabe. Godin bingai jingo. Godin bingai jumping go. Top lady the bottom say in spring you pan yan.
So clearly, it's a song where the old men are enjoying it. Perhaps they remember the time when they were removed to the boys' camp. Do you have an indication of some imagery? Okay, so one of the things that that is constantly coming up for us, particularly when we're working in sound files, is the layering of sometimes words that aren't caught immediately, and perhaps that's got something to do with tempo of song. Now, I don't have a musical background, so Jesse sort of led this sort of way, but I've caught up with some little bits. So the first bit is you and me, tiny man, magaralu galai. Our bodies are the same, you and me, little boy. It's sung again. Our bodies are the same, tiny man. The next bit has a bit of Creole in it, so it's a Pacific Pidgin for Sabi. Do you see? No Sabi. And as we move through it, sorry. Do you see? No Sabi. Do you see? No, you don't understand. Sorry. So as we move down to the next bit, Kotin Bingai Yisro. And the next bit up the top, Kotina Bingai Jumpingu. I didn't realize that there was a very small word in this bit here, Yisru, which we've now put in, which is who Kotina Bingai Jumpingu. But you sometimes miss these sounds. So the song goes, Kotin Bingai Yisru, who Kotina Bingai Jumpingu. So working with somebody who obviously works in music, has a beat structure, and sort of opened my mind to hear deeply into the piece. So what I see here is a young boy who was actually removed from family to live with the boys in the big camp because he was probably needing to be straightened up a little bit, guided by the older people. And the old men are having a bit of a laugh with him on his way to wherever the camp is, and saying that the old woman, who's the senior woman, the bolla, said, perhaps we've got to sting your bum when you're down here. But that, to me, indicates a sense of leadership, but certainly a gentle way in which this young boy has to feel, has to know the way forward. Yep.
But yeah. Next. This is a little bit of the musical.
Yeah, that's how we did it.
Side. And I should point out that these concepts I've said, I've used the Ngiyampaa Wongai language again, Borderby and Wage Maarr, I suppose.
I'm all good with that. I'm all good with that. You know the music, I don't.
But yeah, that's you can see where the rhythm falls, You and me, tiny man, magararugalai.
Yeah.
So the beat is quite really sort of solid. Songs, the words are quick too, I've noticed.
Very quick.
Except for when he holds the word Kotin Bingai Yingu or Yirro.
Who caught in a Bingai Jumpingu, and that little one jumps in so quick. But what it indicates is that they're really actually talking to that young boy, and they're saying to him, you're caught here, and we understand, and we can now see that you know that you're here. You're actually here. Yeah.
So I think, as I was just saying before, when it goes up. There's a reason why they really want to express that part to the boy that they're singing to.
Yes.
And that's that going up part, why it's important. And then the last line is anticipated, and it's got that repeated notes to indicate that he's finishing the song. The top lady to the bottom says, and sting your bum.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's the little things that you listen out and you start to get used to in songs. to know what it's doing when it's going to finish. And the structure, the Maarr, so it's really just the one section the whole way through, except line 1 is sung twice. You and me, tiny man, Magira Rulga light. You and me, tiny man, Magira Rulga light. And do you want to maybe just talk about how it switches, the code switching that's going on too?
Yeah, I kind of figure this is a song that might have been recorded probably late 20s, early 30s, 1930s, where language is still holding on, but there's maybe a need for a bridge. So the bridging is the part in English, and also a little bit of Creole. Only one word, but a very important word. Do you see no sabi? So we were growing up in the 60s and the 70s, 1970s, 60s and 70s in Armidale. This is the type of language world that we were living in, partly English, part traditional language, but certainly in this creative, joyful way of trying to communicate with people. So that's So I think it's indicative of the way in which community communicate with each other.
Yeah, because they wanted to connect with the young lad, so they'll say start in English.
Yeah.
To connect with them, but also we still want you to learn your language.
Yeah, a little bit of language, and certainly the concept of the Gumbaynggirr. So Gumbaynggirr, across a big part of the state of New South Wales, Gumbaynggirr actually means any brother, or can mean any brother, and it's probably indicative of that men's business to some degree, So early stage of teaching, and then growth into the role of a man in community. So there's an image of us on Nulla Creek. Sorry, this is Nulla Creek, and Jesse sort of indicated the place where this song most likely was created. And on the left-hand side is a number of young boys. I'm somewhere there in the background, I'm not sure. With an old elder of ours who had taken the time. So the two people on the right-hand side, lower right-hand side of the in the images is Raymond Lewis Kelly, my father, and Harry Creamer, who worked for the National Parks and Wildlife Service recording traditional songs. And so this place, we're out getting stories. Now, interestingly enough, the image on the right also is a story about a porcupine.
Yeah. Oh no, I didn't put it in. We just
we didn't put it in.
The gist of it.
But we do know this. We do have the story of a porcupine and how the Nulla Creek was actually formed. It was about a porcupine who had to go zigzag because he was trying to get away, it's told in a colourful, creative way that all the birds who were one time called men were called up to catch and deal with this porcupine. And ultimately what they did was they found him under a rock, and so one of the birds was able to split the rock because he had the power to do so, and they poured the spears into him, which obviously then became his quills.
Yeah, and it is, and it's a really similar story out in Ngiyampaa country too, around how that our Thikarrbila didn't have those quills one time. It was just a furry little animal. Very similar story. The quills come from getting the little spears in his back, and we've got a couple of stories depending on which part of the country. So, yeah, really. Clear connections, same but different. So I'll just sort of finish this with asking that question: what are these songs actually teaching us, and what tracks have our ancestors left for us to know? And what can we learn from the echidna traveling and its footprints, its tracks? I think about looking beyond what your first thought is, and maybe looking beyond. You really got to know about that animal. So when you're looking at the tracks, he's got them backwards feet. See, his feet are sort of, his back ones are backwards. So you've really got to understand that animal to not be deceived and tricked. And going through life, you know, understanding when you hear something or see something, you've really got to have the knowledge around it before making any assumptions. And so they're really sort of powerful lessons in these stories as well.
Yeah. What I would say when it comes to language, though, is that we can actually begin to start to track some of these stories through some of the language. So in one place, the porcupine is called a ngagan. So we call him ngagan. And our word for ear is a jigay. But in a neighboring neighboring language group, they actually call him ngagan for the for literally the porcupine himself. Now we called him ngagan because he was actually when they split that rock, they actually hit him in the ear, and so all porcupines have got a busted ear or a flat ear, and so they say they hit him with that in the ear, and then they poured the spears into it. But it's one way of tracking a story about, you know, where they come from, or what exactly does a naming thing, can it give you some sense of place and connection?
Yeah, and you know, this is the process of looking at these historical songs and archive songs to guide us into our ways of being, and the lessons that exist in there, as you just said, then with Ngagan in the ear and listening for boys, and the Turukal, the tracking. So they're there. The songs, the knowledge are in the songs, and the knowledge is in the country for us. This is it's for us to find and to track ourselves.
And that's becoming more and more evident, and everybody now, lots and lots of other people are going, yes, we're onto the same. We're onto the same track. We're looking at possibilities for language naming, country. You know, very exciting.
Yeah. All right. I think that's us. So I don't know if we're doing questions.
Oh, that was wonderful. That was very pleasant. That was a very pleasant presentation, Aaron. I don't know. We don't have much time now, but I got inspired by what you said. I hope tomorrow I will dialogue with you in my presentation, because I'm dealing with this discussion of songs, as you said. You don't have to be Western, not to use Western category. That's fascinating what you presented. Maybe we can dialogue more about it. I just felt that, as you say in the end, Ray, like from songs to country, but it's also from country to songs, as if one is somehow being tracking the other. I found this the porcupine. It has it shows all the connections to everywhere in the place, right? Because of the arrows, it points to many directions at the same time. So the footprints are fascinating. The idea of the colors too of the land, but the idea from songs to country, and I wonder if it makes sense for you, and from country to songs too. So as if history and memory is connected with the two, with the country and with the song, with the layered words. I wonder if it makes sense.
Well, it's resonating with Brian. Does that resonate with you, Jesse and Ray?
Yep. They have to go together. The songs are in the country, and the country's in the songs, and singing the songs takes us to the country. And
And you were mentioning before, Jesse, about the you know, that you can see this the flat country and the dry country, you can actually hear that sort of in the tonal music, whereas you know, maybe on the coast it's a different sound.
Yeah. So that was I didn't talk much about that, but definitely the Tiny Man song had this sort of upbeat, colourful kind of melody. And the Thikarrbila one was very much pretty straight. I don't really hear that style much from what I've heard on the coastline as much. And
No,
it gives you that identity of country and people, for sure.
And what Brian whispered to me before is he said, you know, it reminds him of, well, he said it's basically connected through the species that are connected to water. He said Ganda, which is the white heron, and it uses its beak to pierce the earth to make a spring and therefore a river. So that's the connection you got, right?
Yeah. And they have a knowledge water.
Well, look, I hate to wrap this up because this is actually something we could talk about for probably days or weeks, but thank you so much, everybody.